And as Josh mentioned, now it is our responsibility to do our best to deliver on what we've promised. We have to decrease the rising tide of crime that steals our safety and robs us of our peace of mind.
Guam has a serious drug problem. Everybody knows it. The politicians know it. Hell, they campaigned on it to get elected. But what have they done since they've gotten into office? The governor has been in place for 3 years, and as you heard at the beginning of this, it was her goal to make the people of Guam feel safer. What has she done? Not a damn thing. Neither have the senators in the 36th legislature. They haven't done anything either. The solution to this problem is a simple one. Make it difficult to get drugs into Guam. Right now it's so easy to get drugs into Guam that the DEA recently reported that the street price of meth on Guam has dropped dramatically in the middle of a pandemic. The solution to this problem is simple. Make it difficult to get drugs into Guam. We're not California. We don't have thousands of miles of coastline, hundreds of airports and municipal airports and private airstrips. And we don't have a lot of seaports and a lot of marinas. We're just a very small island in the middle of nowhere, and our drugs come in through 3 avenues: the airport, the harbor, and the mail. What we need to do is make it much more difficult for drugs to get through the airport, the harbor, and the mail systems here on Guam. The way we do that is we invest in drug detection dog teams. For the past 10 years, I've been trying to get politicians to do this, but they preferred to spend money on other things. Like during the Calvo administration, he spent $3.5 million on those FestPac one-time use huts there at the Paseo. Just imagine if back then he'd spent $500,000 and established 10 new, actually it would have been about 20 new drug dog teams. Drug dog teams typically cost between $20,000 and $30,000 for the dog in the training and the handler training. So if Governor Calvo back then had spent $500,000, we could have had 15 more drug dog teams than we do right now. The current governor, Leon Guerrero, spent $1 million on a portable emergency room or a portable hospital tent that we don't need, that has been used primarily as a shack for the security guard in the parking lot at GMH. What if she had taken that $1 million and used it to invest in 30 drug dog teams? How much safer would the people of Guam be if that happened? Well, that's why I refer back to Benjamin Franklin, who said that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Right now, we have thousands of families that have been damaged or destroyed by the drug trade. And nothing the politicians are doing right now is doing anything to address that problem of easy importation and distribution. So we need to think very hard on who we put into the next legislature, and here's why. The people of Guam don't trust our government to handle this problem, and that lack of trust has a basis of truth.
Mr. Leon Guerrero, you have the floor.
My name is Ken Leon Guerrero. I'm with the Guam Citizens for Public Accountability and a resident. I asked a couple of friends of mine from Jonia to be here today so that they could give their point of view. They have not shown up yet. The recent events surrounding the mayor and the mayor's office and our community in general play a very significant role in why the recall petition is struggling. A lot of people do not feel safe putting their name and address on a piece of paper that is going to be circulated publicly. Could we have the video, please? This is from the security camera of a house. And here we have a convicted...
Mr. Leon Guerrero, I think that was on the news also.
Yes, it was on the news also. And here we have a person trying to gain entry into a house only to be stopped by his significant other. Now, this is one of dozens of videos I could show about different residences here on Guam where people are trying to get in. And that is one of the reasons why the residents of Jonia feel that they are not safe. This situation is unique. It's a clear and present danger to the residents of Jonia, because here we have a situation where the distrust in Guam's law enforcement organs is rapidly rising. Why? We have a mayor who talks about having connections with the police, the marshals, and corrections, and he can get things done. We have an example right here of a former drug felon trying to get into somebody's house. We have drug addicts walking around in our villages. And in Jonia specifically, a couple of weeks ago, I was at the store there by the mayor's office. Two guys came up to me looking very much like meth addicts, asking me for $20 so they could buy Pampers and milk. I think my size and my attitude prevented it from going any further. This recall petition is a very important step in restoring confidence in our government, especially with the residents of Jonia. Based on the comments that we've all heard in the, the village meetings and things like that, there's a pervasive fear in this community. And that fear has to be addressed. This is the body that can address it. I heard Senator Pito Terlahi here rise in vigorous defense of the mayor. We see the same kinds of things happening as politicians and politically well-connected insiders protect each other, and that's the way it comes out in the community. Because that young man that we saw trying to gain entry, he hasn't been arrested. If I'd tried to do that, what do you think the chances are that if I tried to bash my way into somebody's house that I would not at least have been detained? Look at Jeff Limo. When he was arrested, did he go to jail? No, he spent the night in the conference room. They brought him food from Kentucky Fried Chicken. Is that not evidence of taking care of each other to the exclusion of the safety of the public? That's what this whole charade is that we're looking at with the village mayor. We have a situation where even the federal government is keeping witnesses off island because they fear for their safety as a result of the reach of the mayor through his contacts. And that's why the petition is stalled. When the head of the Public Safety Committee of the legislature, who has very close ties to a lot of the people that were in the news following Jonia Mayor Jesse Bloss's arrest over facilitating the drug trade through the mailboxes at the mayor's office, we have reasons to be concerned. Especially when we consider the fact that the head of the Public Safety Committee at the legislature, the People's House, has not introduced or passed a single bill to make it more difficult to get drugs onto the island or to make the people of Guam safer. The problem is further magnified when we consider the fact that in the last couple of years, we had a long list of government officials going to bat for a law enforcement officer gone bad. A couple of years ago, Homeland Security Officer Ricky Sanchez used his position and his government offices to import meth for distribution on the island, and that meth in turn destroyed many more families. But what happened? Instead of rising up and rising up and decrying his actions, we had a number of government officials rise up in support of a law enforcement officer who used his title, his position, and his government offices to import meth. It's almost like we have elected officials condoning drug import and distribution. We had 23 people write letters of support, including a number of high government officials, starting with former Chief of Staff Tony Babauta, Chief of Staff to the Governor. And we had Police Captain Stephen Ignacio, who is now the Chief of Police. And we also had the head of Homeland Security and Civil Defense, who was the boss of Ricky Sanchez, writing letters for requesting leniency. This is not a good message to send to our community, that we have so many high-ranking public and appointed officials standing up for drug dealers, including the mayor of Dedido and the mayor of Agate. Trust is also further destroyed when we have so many government employees involved in the drug trade. We had the security guard from DPW selling meth out of his security shack. Then we had that whole situation over Department of Corrections, starting with Deputy Director of the Department of Corrections stepping down as part of the scandal surrounding Mayor Jesse Bloss. We had a large number of correction officers tied into a drug distribution ring in the prison itself. And we even had police officers who have gotten wrapped around the axle of the drug trade. How many people have been lost forever? How many families have been destroyed because of our politicians were not willing to meet the challenge and make good on their campaign promises to stop the drug trade? Well, we know they haven't set aside any money to increase the number of drug dogs because we know the Guam Police Department only has 4. So I wanted to find out what they were planning to do to dramatically improve the safety of Guam, because the only law, and this is kind of weird, that I've seen come out of the 35th or the 36th legislature under the leadership of Pito Terlahi has been an arson bill. And they tied it to meth to make good on their campaign promises, I guess, by saying that people addicted to meth set fires to poach deer, to sell the deers, to buy more meth. Now talk about a loose association. But that's the closest thing that I can find to a bill coming out of the 35th or the 36th legislature under the leadership of Leon Guerrero that does anything, and it does nothing, to protect the people from the drug trade. So I went in and looked at what they're planning to do, pulled down a report for a federal grant that they're applying for, and it was really interesting. They acknowledged that crystal meth is a big problem here, and in this report there's only 5 words about increasing drug detection dogs. What's really interesting is that there are 4 pages detailing how the person who handles the grants will be paid. I mean, this is ridiculous. 5 words about drug detection dogs and all of this on how the person who administers this grant will be paid. It shows that our politicians don't have our best interest at heart, which is not surprising. Thomas Jefferson warned us when he said it should be no surprise that politicians will put themselves and the needs of themselves and those closely allied to them over the needs of the people. The time has come for us to do something about that. In the Guam laws, we have the right of recall. People have been talking about recalling the governor, but that's going to be too difficult. But it's not going to be too difficult to recall senators. When we look at 3 senators in particular, Pito Terlahi, Amanda Shelton, Tina Munoz Barnes, just starting a recall effort as part of the voter initiative process will put all the senators on notice. And maybe, just maybe, they'll start doing things to protect the people of Guam. But that isn't going to happen unless we as people start acting. So in the coming weeks, we'll be clarifying the process on the voter initiative process, and hope that you will join us in an effort to reclaim our government away from politicians and make it once again a government of people, by people, for people. If you would like to learn more about the process or become involved in the process, send me an email in confidence to kenleonguerrero@yahoo.com. I'm Ken Leon Guerrero, and this is my point of view.